Notice the band. Notice.
And everybody's lined up. Historic uniforms there. We've got some Revolutionary War style fife and drum corps. So the coats that they're wearing, you can see those edges turned up. Those are called the facings, those red edges that you see around the front edge of the coat. Traditionally, musicians will wear a different color. They will wear the inverse uniform of the main body of the military force, and that makes them identifiable because in times past, especially, people will be looking to the musicians for cues about movements, and also it marks them as non-combatants. So we tend to see very unusual and colorful uniforms on our military bands, such as the Marine Band we've seen today, the Fife and Drum Corps that we just saw, and even the Herald Trumpets, U.S. Army Herald Trumpets. Great view of the East Front stairs here, waiting for President and Vice President to come out and review the troops.
I think if you're a certain age, you might think of this area, perhaps, at a certain age, President Kennedy's inauguration, perhaps, depending on, again, the age, you think of Blackjack Pershing and his Lion in State. Now, I know what you think, well, maybe perhaps your grandparents can remember their parents and the imagery and the newspaper coverage.
Yeah, lying in state and lying in honor ceremonies that have traditionally happened in the rotunda of the Capitol. This past summer, they had to do something a little bit different for Congressman John Lewis, where they actually put his casket kind of right out there in front of that east front door in order for people to file by on the outside. The lying in honor ceremony happened for the first time in 1998. Two Capitol police officers.
Officer J.J. Chestnut and John Gibson.
And in 2005, there was a lying in honor for Rosa Parks. And earlier this year, Justice Ginsburg. There also was a lying in honor for Reverend Billy Graham in years past. And then lying in state is something we tend to associate with presidents, but it's happened for a lot of people, as you mentioned a second ago. General Pershing, unknown soldiers. Members of the House, Senate.
Well, who was, Henry Clay.
Yeah, he laid in state in the rotunda.
He's
the first. And then a few years later, when Lincoln was assassinated, that kind of cemented that tradition that we expect that to happen. And again, speaking of Lincoln, we're looking at the East Front steps where Lincoln was inaugurated. We actually have on display down in the Capitol Visitor Center a table.
It's stunning.
Yeah, so we have the table that Lincoln placed his notes on for his second inaugural address. And it's made from pieces of cast iron from the dome. So the cast iron, 9 million pounds of iron that makes up the dome of the Capitol. Since it's produced in pieces, there are multiples made, and if you've ever made anything using a mold yourself, sometimes they don't all come out perfectly even, so there was a pile of extra pieces and cast-offs, and the workmen working on the Capitol dome during the Civil War went through that pile of cast-offs, put together a balustrade column for the center as a pedestal for the table, some of the decorative elements for the outside to come down and make feet for it, and then they put a smooth top on it, present it to President Lincoln for his inauguration.
I think it's wonderful that American artists and artists from Italy that painted in the Capitol would often use workers in their artwork. The workers here, I love that.
Well, we even know that Constantino Brumidi, who painted that fresco inside the Capitol dome, used some of the iron workers for his models.
Charles Thomas, the superintendent, the foreman.
Particularly for the scene of mechanics that has Vulcan at an anvil and forge, and he needed people to kind of stand in as models to represent the workers in that forge. Remember today's inaugural theme: forging a more perfect union, determined democracy. Looking at the East Front here, backed out a little bit so that you can see a little bit of the historic Capitol on either side of the stairs.
Friends, if you were to come to Washington and walk around the Capitol, even in the evening, when it's dark, the building will teach you something. You will learn something. You'll pass a member of Congress at night and not know it. And you'll go by 20 yards later and someone will say, wasn't that so-and-so that just walked past? I believe so.
Oh, here they come for the reviewing of troops. Now, I was just going to say, Calvin Coolidge's inauguration, the first one to be broadcast by radio, 1925. And the first one for TV, Truman, 1949. The cables for people to watch it in the Midwest had literally just been installed a few weeks before. Folks on the West Coast still couldn't watch Truman's inauguration.
Well, that'd be nice if we could hear some of the commands. That would be nice, yes.
We can hear the applause.
I know those two words, forward march. I think I've uttered that a time or two. Let's listen and watch. Janet, what if I were to tell you that in one day you would have a new job and change your place of residence in the same day? What would you say to that?
Seems like a lot. And a new ride.
And a new car.
And a new car there. I don't know if everyone noticed how thick those doors are when they put the president into that car, but there it is, nicknamed the Beast. Departing from the East Front, they're on their way over to Arlington Cemetery, lay a wreath.
And past two presidents while doing it. William Howard Taft and John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
The vice president getting into the car there with the flags. You know, Chairman Blunt, the JSEC, announcing this 59th inaugural, spoke about this event, commonplace and miraculous, and how this stands as an assurance to all people of our continued, unbroken commitment to continuity, stability, perseverance, and democracy. We have a statue in the Visitor Center of Frederick Douglass.
Yes.
And on the base of it, a quote from one of his addresses: "If there is no struggle, there is no progress." This year's inaugural theme, selected by the JSIC, our determined democracy, forging a more perfect union.
I would say a prolific display of that today.
As we see the vice president and the president loading into the limousines, preparing to depart here on the east front of the Capitol, following the pass and review of troops. Family members headed back as well.
You know, at times, I didn't sense a pandemic or a lot of security. At times, it seemed like, well, this is what I'm used to, but there were times in which I said, oh my.
Well, I
I
think
see the difference.
this 59th inaugural is familiar and it's also different. Oh.
It's the least attended inaugural physically, but perhaps virtually, the most attended, perhaps.
Yes, and we've been thinking about how, as the technology advances in our nation, these events can reach more and more people, right? You know, 1845, people heard about James K. Polk via telegraph getting inaugurated, his speech going out via telegraph. James Buchanan, 1857, the first to be photographed. You can actually see that on the website of our partners, Library of Congress. Photographed, and of course, those inaugurations here on the East Front that we're looking at through our cameras. Then, of course, broadcast on the radio, broadcast on the television, and now live streamed out over the internet.
How about President Carter, who's not here to attend, but has seen? It's perhaps better in some cases that for him, given some affirmities, that he's able to witness this from his comfort of his own.
Close up on the license plate there, it said 46.
46.
Our 46th president inside that limousine, again nicknamed the Beast. It's very heavily armored. You know, McKinley's was the first inaugural to be filmed with sound recording, 1897. And if you can imagine, we've talked about how in the early years with Washington and Lincoln, people straining to hear the president's remarks, you know, and the sound amplification for the crowd doesn't happen until 1921. But in 1897, people were able to listen to the sound recording.
But yet we hear about the good old days.
Yeah, in 1949, Truman, where folks on the West Coast couldn't see it because the television cables weren't installed yet. One of those skylights there, that's the top of the Capitol Visitor Center.
It's a gorgeous view.
As we see the vice president's car going by there. Sorry, that's president's car going by there. Departing now for Arlington Cemetery. Here on the East Front Plaza, right above the Capitol Visitor Center. That big glass skylight you see there, the water feature around it, black granite from Clovis, California. These flagstones, the pavers that the cars are going over from South Dakota and Minnesota. stones selected. There are 17 different states represented in the stones of the Capitol.
I was just guessing among, just as you were talking, I think there's probably 8 to 10, 17?
17 different states
I learned
represented.
something today.
Absolutely. There's some stone from Kentucky on the borders of the rotunda. Here in the Russell Senate office building, the Kennedy caucus room that we're stationed right outside, there's some black veined marble from New Jersey in there. It took the architects a full year to find it.
A full year.
So throughout the day, we've been able to show you several videos. Throughout the day, we've been able to show. Watch the departure here. Watch the departure. Watch the.
As a people, behind an enduring republic.
On behalf of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, thank you for joining us today for the 59th inaugural ceremonies. It's been a historic day. We hope to see you all back at the Capitol soon to take a tour with us or watch a session of Congress or attend one of the events.
This has been our privilege. Thank you to the camera crew. Thank you to Beth Flemons of the Capitol Visitor Center, to Capitol Police. I can't say enough about what dignity and order that we saw today. I'm most proud.
Thank you all for watching, and thank you to the Joint Congressional Committee for giving us the opportunity to be on this live stream with you all today. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for joining us.